It was the first day of winter break, but for Aria, there was no rest from her constant worries. She sat hunched over a battered laptop in the corner of the university library, her fingers numb from the cold air that seeped through the cracked windows. Her part-time job at the cafe barely paid for her rent, let alone the tuition fees looming over her like a shadow she could never escape. She stared at her bank account, just enough to buy instant noodles for a week. She sighed, closed her eyes, and pressed her forehead against the desk, wondering how much longer she could keep up this lonely fight. Fate, however, has a strange way of slipping miracles into our lives when we least expect them. On her way home, shivering in her threadbare coat, Aria almost missed it, a small brown leather wallet lying half buried in the snow near the bus stop. She glanced around. The street was empty except for a few cars splashing through puddles. Curiosity and desperation fought within her as she picked it up with trembling hands. She ducked under a streetlight and opened it. Her breath caught. Bills. So many crisp bills that her eyes welled with tears at the thought of what this could mean for her overdue fees, her mother's medicine back home, and her next month's rent. A name peeked from a driver's license. Tucked neatly behind the cash, Benjamin Hartley. Aria's conscience screamed louder than her hunger pangs. She clutched the wallet to her chest and trudged to her small rented room where she sat all night debating. In her mind, she saw her mother's soft eyes, heard her father's voice telling her, "Do right, even when it hurts." At dawn, she made her decision. Finding Benjamin Hartley was no easy feat. She had no phone credit to make calls, and her old laptop died the minute she searched his name. So, she spent her last bus fare to reach the address on his license, a sleek building in a part of town she had only seen in TV dramas. The doorman eyed her suspiciously, but let her in after she explained. Aria waited in the marble lobby, clutching, the wallet so tightly her knuckles turned white. When Benjamin Hartley finally appeared, he looked nothing like she expected. No suit, no arrogant swagger. Instead, he was a weary-looking man in his 50s, carrying a bag of groceries. Aria stood. "Up!" Her voice caught in her throat. She held out the wallet with both hands like an offering. "I think you dropped this," she said almost in a whisper. Benjamin stared at her, then the wallet, then back at her face. Slowly, his expression softened into a smile so warm it melted the frost clinging to Aria's heart. "You have no idea how much trouble you've saved me," he said, his voice hoarse but kind. He tried to press a reward into her hands, but Aria stepped back, shaking her head. "I didn't do it for money. It just didn't belong to me." Something about her honesty lingered with Benjamin. He asked about her, gently coaxing her to share her story over hot tea in his spacious kitchen. Words spilled out of Aria before she could stop them. Her father's passing, her mother's illness, her dream of finishing her degree in social work to help kids like herself. She didn't notice the hours pass, nor the way Benjamin listened, nodding, eyes thoughtful. Days later, Aria returned to her routines, thinking that was the end of it. She pushed herself through double shifts at the cafe, her fingers raw from washing dishes. She ignored the eviction notice tacked to her door. Then, one cold evening, her landlord handed her an envelope with her name on it. Inside was a paid receipt for her rent for the next 6 months. Confused and panicked, Aria found Benjamin's number scribbled on the back. She called him, her voice trembling. "Why would you do this?" she demanded through tears. Benjamin chuckled softly. "Because someone once gave me a chance when I had nothing but my honesty, just like you. Now it's my turn to do the same." From that day on, Benjamin became more than a benefactor. He met her once a week for coffee, reviewing her assignments, sharing his stories of how he built his small business from scratch after being homeless himself. He taught her how to budget, how to believe in her worth, how to see opportunity where others saw despair. Years later, When Aria walked across the graduation stage, her mother's voice crackling through a cheap video call, Benjamin sat in the front row, clapping the loudest. He had not only paid for her tuition but showed her the kind of kindness that transforms a life. She looked at him through her tears, realizing that miracles don't always come as sudden windfalls, but sometimes arrive in the shape of a person who believes in you when you can't believe in yourself. Aria went on to work for an organization that provided scholarships to underprivileged youth, always carrying in her heart the lesson that honesty and kindness, no matter how hard they feel in moments of need, return to us in ways more beautiful than we can imagine. And whenever she saw a lost wallet, she smiled, remembering the miracle that changed everything.